don't forget your Manchester Derby today.
Yes. What time is that on?
An hour from now, lineups are like coming out now, I think.
Hello, everyone that's just joining us. I'm not sure we have any viewers yet. We're just getting things going here. I'm just sharing the video in a few places, trying out. Well, now I say that. Give me 2 seconds here, Dane. Talk about the Manchester Derby for 2 seconds.
Yeah, if you guys are in the Slack, we're about to get lineups for the Manchester Derby,
Great
Man
start.
U and Man City. So be sure if you're not, hop in, get your free trial, and we're going to break that down. I'm going to post a scale for that, and we got the main slate going on. So
Oh,
it's
that
going
was
to be a fun
seamless.
one for sure. Big match for sure.
That was flawless, Dane. Absolutely flawless. I left my furnace running full bore, and it's like right beside where we go. That would have got annoying. Okay, so I'm going to share this video in a few spots. Yeah, we were talking about some betting before this, and we were talking about our golf bets, and DeChambeau is like 3.4 to 1. So I went into my site and I wanted to bet a few NASCAR bets. So I'm going to talk about those here in a bit. But what I like is I wanted to do like a Bryson and then pair them with, say, two or three different drivers and get some really good odds on that. My cool bet does not allow that kind of cross sport parlay with NASCAR and or anything in live betting. If you're live betting, you have to live bet. There's no throwing in another bet. So I'm quite disappointed there. Quite disappointed because I had a good bet in
I
there.
can get Bryson plus my favorite one at 31.5 to 1. My favorite bet for the race. So
Oh,
we'll
nice.
get into that later. Maybe I'll do that as my hedge
Awesome. I'm
for
just
golf.
no, I like those hedges. Like we were saying, I bet that Sunday hedge with Bryson, and then I put some Fleetwood. I know you're on Fleetwood, so I'll cheer with you. At least want to be happy with you, not just for you if he wins. So I'm just
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes anyway. I think there is some nice bets. That's one thing I was kind of looking at a little bit more with racing here. Um,
yeah.
was just some of these bets in here. Like we got, first of all, I guess we'll just kind of chit chat here. Like the favorite, I'm looking at the odds board right now, is Harvick. He's been good here. He's starting on the pole. This is one thing I really broke down this week. Was really looking at since the restart last year, where we didn't have any practice, we didn't have any qualifying, and they did these. It was, I don't want to say random draw, but it's not the fastest car in the front anymore. It's a combination of I had it up here too, but it's like fast laps from last week, fastest lap from last week, and but it's not the fastest car in the front anymore. Sorry about that. Um, so really, how I'm really breaking that down is I kind of fading Harvick for DFS. I guess that's my initial take here, just simply because um, there's only been two drivers that have led 100 plus laps in 15 races since the restart last year, and it was Hamlin, I believe, at Homestead, and then Darlington 3. I think Elliott led like 100 plus, 115 laps, and then finished like 20th. So only once from the pole has a driver led 100 plus and actually won the race. So what's your thoughts on that as I share things here?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm on Harvick a little bit. I can't decide if he's going to go in my main lineup or not, but in the 20 max, he's definitely going to be a part of that build. I think he can definitely lead up to the competition caution, and then that's kind of what's threw a wrench in it for us. Are these competition cautions with the leaders then not having as great a chance to lead the full first stage? But he has been good here. I hope that he is a little lower on if I am going to be on him, just because of what we saw last week was not very, did not look good as a team. Stuart Haas didn't. So on the pole, maybe he can get out front, and they found something this week. But that's just my initial thoughts on him.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be hard too.
And
I
he's
mean,
not super expensive either.
that's
97.
that's exactly what I was just going to say. That price tag right there is insane, and he's first in my model too. So I'm definitely prepared to
Yeah.
be call crazy this entire show and leading up to the race, and then possibly even after if it goes wrong for me. But that's kind of be my fate, and that's just I guess one of my gut feelings, and just kind of looking at some of the. I don't have my research sheet up here, but I know it only happened twice. since the return last year where they led 100 plus. Twice, 2 other times, drivers led 50 plus. So really is only like 4 to 15 times where they've led 50 or more laps from the pole. If he gets out there early, I do think he can lead. I think I have him. I'm just going to check the fantasy matrix. I'm going to flip over to that here soon and kind of explain the sheet a little bit. I had some people this morning asking some questions, how we use the sheet and just generally what we look at with the sheet. So I'm going to go over that here in a minute. But yeah, I got Harvick in for like 40 laps led and 20 fast laps. So I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit as well with the fantasy matrix, how I use it. We'll go over all that stuff here. But before we go any further, I want to tell you guys where you can get the cheat sheet that I am talking about here. And I'm just going to show you that here. First of all, you can go over to dfsr.com. It's a $14.95 subscription, gets you access to the chat room, gets you access to my cheat sheets. For $29.95, you get access to the optimizer for NBA, NHL, PGA, NFL. Nothing for NASCAR yet. We're hoping to get something in the works here in the future, but that's one place. You can head over to patreon.com/Jagerbombs. For $5 a month, you can get access to one sport. For $10 a month, you get access to all sports. Or you can head over to rotopros.com. Me and Dane's article is up over there. If you go up over here to the articles and to the NASCAR articles, you can find Dane's free article. It comes out every week, Saturday or Sunday. Looks at the strategy, core plays in each price range. And if you want to get a copy of the cheat sheet like we were talking about here, you can go to the yellow sign up button and choose one of the 3 pricing structures that we have, either the weekly, the monthly, or the yearly. You get a free trial with that as well. And if you use promo code RP50, you'll get 50% off once your trial is up and you make your first payment here. So they're going to jump into the cheat sheet here, like we talked about. Before I get into the picks, I want to go over just quickly what we're looking at here. So we got odds to win. We've got the start position here by the driver. We've got track history, last 10 races for each driver. And then some information here with laps led, average DK, average FanDuel. We've got career track history. We've got track type history here. We've got current form, which is actually 2021 forms. We've got 3 races. All that information is there. I'm not weighing that really yet because we've had 3 different track types so far. I'm more looking this week in my model over here, as you can see. Got some odds to win. I've got track history as the top here at Las Vegas over the last 2 years. Track type history on the intermediate tracks. And then I've got some place differential rank in here just because we do, again, once have some drivers with some nice place differential upside, and then some qualifying because normally we do see our laps leaders, our dominators coming on these intermediate tracks coming from those top 5 starting positions. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at the sheet. And then the fantasy matrix is something that we use to really compare drivers. So what you see here is the driver salary starting position. You can come in here if you go and create a copy of the sheet by going up to file at the top of the page, create a copy, name it what you want. Then you have ability to edit the sheet. And then you can come in here and project laps led, project fast laps for drivers, and start calculating. So this shows fantasy points for DraftKings for every driver at every possible finish position in the race. So for instance, you've got Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. Denny starting 6th, Kyle starting 3rd. Let's say Kyle Larson doesn't lead any laps. I've got Denny for 60 laps led, 35 fast laps. That's 80.75 DK points if he wins the race in that scenario. Whereas Larson, if he was to finish 2nd behind him, he would only get 43 points starting 3rd. So that's kind of how we compare drivers. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we start comparing these value drivers as well. So keep that in mind. And then some other research tools in the sheet I want to go over before we talk picks here is the track history detailed. So this is all last 10 Las Vegas races with a bunch of information here. Scroll down to the bottom. We've got correlation from start to finish, which, as you can see, last year's race was very high correlation to start from finish. We only had, what do we got here? 2 drivers outside the top 15 finish inside the top 10, and 5 came from the top 10 starting position. So you can look at that data down here as well. And then you can also look at, if you want to look at intermediate track history, I've got it sorted here by average finish over the last 15 races. With that, let's get into our picks. You talked about liking Harvick. Outside of Harvick in that top range, let's just say 9,000 and up, who are maybe 2 or 3 of your core guys today?
Yeah, I'm not even sure Harvick is my favorite dominator. I would say up there, but I do like him. My favorite 2 plays in that top range are Blaney I think he'll be popular. He's been pretty good here. Starting 26th, he's got the upside to dominate at some point in this race, and he has that massive um, place differential upside as well. So
Yes.
I think you could pair him with somebody like a Harvick that's starting near the front that you think could lead early on, and then maybe Blaney gets the third stage dominator. Um, that's a potential. I don't even know if he needs the dominator if you nail one or two other guys that could lead the laps. So he's one of my favorites. And then maybe my favorite play of the whole slate as far as dominators is Chase Elliott starting eighth. He's one that I want to bet to win for sure. 9-1, I think, is pretty good odds for him. So Chase is going to be one of my top ones for sure. So Chase and Blaney in the 10K range for me. I suppose you could play Truex. He's been pretty good here, but he would rank third behind those two. And then Harvick is right there. I'm going to be picking at least two of those guys in every one of my lineups, I believe.
No, I definitely like that. And as you were doing that, I was filling in some lap sled for those guys that you talked about. If Blaney goes and leads only like 25 laps, gets 10 fast laps here, that gives him a bonus of almost 11 dominator points. If he was to win the race, that puts him at about 81 DraftKings points. Whereas Elliott starting eighth, if he leads 60 laps, 35 fast laps, and gets 31 dominator points, he's only getting 82.75. So only two more points for all those extra dominator points. So there is a ton of upside with Blaney today. I think he will be probably the highest owned in this range, just because he's the only guy starting outside the top 15. So I'm definitely on him. He's going to be a core play for me today. Another one in this top range that I'm looking at, Denny Hamlin for me, is my top dominator. Chase Elliott is right there as well. I think he has a chance, but Hamlin would be my top dominator. I like Blaney with you there, and I like Joey Logano. He would be second in place differential outside of Matty D here. I guess we're talking 9K and up. So Matty D with starting 30th makes a lot of sense at the bottom of that range. But Joey Logano, I like starting 15th. He's had two wins here. Um, where are we here? Right there. So last year as well as 2019 as well. So, and he's got a long track record. Before that 14th last year, he had top tens and nine straight with those two wins and seven top fives. So Joey Logano is definitely on my radar. If you want to go contrarian, you get some place differential upside. I don't think you get dominator upside with Kyle being the most expensive, but I think he's going to be low owned just because of the guys we've already talked about in the 9K range that are going to take ownership. He's probably going to be, there's a chance he's outside the top 10 in ownership, but probably in that 8th to 10th range. I'd say maybe like 10, 12%, maybe less. If we can get him less, that'd be awesome, but he's starting 14th. It's been a rough start to the year. It pretty much sucks right now. It sucks for me. Hard to watch, but for DFS, I think he's going to be low owned, and he does have that upside. So I'm definitely on board there. Anybody else, maybe as a pivot? Like I know we didn't talk about Kyle Larson starting third. Do you think maybe he is maybe a low owned pivot off of some of these guys? Maybe a possible dominator.
Yeah, he's going to be the lowest on dominator up here for sure, starting third and 9,400. Hey, I like what we saw out of him last week. He didn't ever stay in front, I guess, but he was always right there in that top three. So he was flirting with having a big day for us last week. I was on him quite a bit and expected him to be hopefully a little lower on. He was pretty high on, even at 10. I think he was one of the top price guys last week too.
Yeah.
Now he's priced down a little bit. He's a guy that could go out here and take away dominator points from everybody else. So yeah, I like him. I might even like him more than Hamlin. I know you love Hamlin, but I think just because of the ownership, I don't know. I don't think Hamlin will be super owned either, though. So, but Larson should be the lowest owned dominator if you look at everybody starting in the top 10 here.
Yeah, I definitely like that. And
Maybe
then
Byron's lower, but I'm not really on him again.
no, starting second, I don't see a repeat dominator performance from him. If I'm kind of fading that front row, I guess altogether, and I'm looking a little bit further back. Like I said, Hamlin. I like the pivot, like you said, with the low owned Larson as a possible dominator, but I'm on Hamlin and Elliott probably as my top two dominators. If Blaney could get some late, that would be incredible. but I think he's going to be high owned anyway, so it might not make a difference. So I'm going to have, in my 20 max, probably two Kyle Busch lineups just as pivots. I think that's going to be more than the field is going to have, I'm hoping for. But I like that upside of possible low ownership. And then going down into the next level, it is the next level for FanDuel. Like Matty D on FanDuel, 7,800. That is just a crazy price. And then the other guy who's I think is a crazy price on FanDuel, place differential, kind of the same situation as Eric Almirola, starting 28th. He's 7,500 on FanDuel, 86 on DraftKings. Both of those guys seem like they're going to be pretty chalky as well. So I think that's going to take away some of the ownership, like we talked about with Larson, Kyle Busch way at the top. So do you think that's am I right there thinking that those two are probably going to be the chalk plays, pushing some low ownership for those top tier guys?
Yeah, for sure. This is an interesting range. Like you said, Maddie and Almirola are crazy priced on FanDuel. I don't really play over there, but that's just in the 7Ks. That's kind of crazy. Um, I don't know what else to say. Maddie, second place here in the last two times, which is kind of weird to
Yeah.
see. So they've definitely done a good job pricing him. If they priced him in the low eights, he would be massive, massive chalk. He's still going to be pretty chalky, I think, starting 30th. But one thing, just going back to Blaney, he kind of I know he's priced completely different, but he kind of reminds me of Byron last week, because Byron was starting near 30th as well, and got up front and dominated and won the race. So I think Blaney could do that, something like that this week. Um, drop down in. Do you have anything else about the 8K range? I'm not really on many of these guys. I mean, Bowman starting ninth. He's just another low on dominator, probably. I mean, he's got to dominate to pay off this price tag and where he's starting. So he would definitely be my option over a guy like Kurt Busch or Byron. I would go Bowman over those two. If you're trying to pivot and get a little bit cheaper of a dominator, that say you could play him and a guy like Harvick maybe, and then play Blaney and hope he gets up there later. But I'm not really played with bills to see if that even works. It should, though.
I think a chalk build, especially for people playing cash games this week, is going to be Blaney, Matty D, and Almirola. You get a
Yeah.
possible winner with some possible dominator points with Blaney, and you get three elite place differential upside, possible top 10 drivers. Top 15s for two of the three is even fine with the place differential they're going to get. So I think that's going to be chalky there. And that alone leaves some pivots because that's going to trend over into the GPP side of things as well. So it's very interesting how you choose to build. Like in my 20 max, I'm not going to have, 10 different kinds of builds. I'm going to really narrow it down to two, maybe three. I usually have two strong builds with 8 lineups of each. So that makes 16 lineups. And then with my third build, I kind of go like really contrarian with 4 lineups. But still, within those 4 contrarian lineups, I still kind of have a GPP core of my pivots that I try and use in those 4 lineups. But generally, for my 8 lineups, they're pretty close, pretty split in the builds. Unless one really stands out, then I'll maybe go like 10 and 6, something like that, or 12 and 4 some weeks even. But generally, 8 and 8 it looks like what I'm going to go this week, and that chalk build's going to be definitely one way I'm going to go. I'm either going to have all 3 of those in about 4 lineups, 3 or 4 lineups, and then just kind of mix the pieces around them. And then the other build is probably going to be fading 2 of the 3 of those and kind of go in a different direction. So that's kind of how I'm going to build my eight two 8 lineup cores out of my 20 max on DraftKings this week. And then FanDuel, it's kind of the same thing. It's going to be super chalk in terms of Matty D and Almirola just because they're under 8K, right around guys that are 11K, 12K. Like it's crazy their pricing over there. And I know place differential is only worth half as much, but it's still worth half a point. So you move up 20 spots that to a top 10 for Matty D. I mean, that's still 10 points. So definitely going to be chalk over there. So I definitely like the GPP pivots. If I go in, say, a 20 max on FanDuel, because they're going to be even higher owned, I'm probably going to build even more of the contrarian style pivots off the chalk over on FanDuel versus DraftKings this week. So that's kind of the way I'm looking and breaking down the top tier. for my 20 max. That's really what I'm concentrating on this season is 20 max builds for NASCAR, building those two cores and then a third kind of contrarian core with 4 of those final 20 lineups. How do you go about your contest selection on Sunday? I know that's a very important thing that we don't. I guess we don't talk about enough. I don't think in videos. I know in chat we talk about it all the time. What do you play for NASCAR?
Yeah, usually I definitely do at least one of the 20 maxes, at least for races like this. For Daytona and Talladega super speedways, I'm always running only multiple 20 maxes, but and no single entries for those. But for a day like today, I'm running a 20 max, and then I'll either do a 3 max or just one single entry. Um, so that I can have the two different types of builds. One that I'm building 20 out, kind of like you build it around a few different cores, and then the single entry, just kind of playing all my favorite guys, just so I have that hand built team that I'm not mixing and matching around. So that I'm keying in on all the core plays that I have in each range is the way I build that single entry.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. So moving down, I had a question here. I don't have any exposure myself to Bubba Wallace this week. I'm still kind of in the feeling out stages with that car. Starting 23rd. If he was starting outside 30th, I would probably definitely consider it. Even starting outside top 25. Starting 23rd is kind of pushing it here with me. He's only finished inside the top 20 once. And that, well, obviously was with a little bit lesser equipment. But what are your thoughts on Bubba in that range? There's a couple guys I'll talk about after who I think Bubba's going to be really low owned. First of all, especially on FanDuel, he's like low 5K, which I like that play a little bit better because the place differential isn't as much. But on DraftKings, I know that's where you play solely. What is your thoughts on Bubba on DraftKings?
I just think there's guys around him that I like more. A couple guys that are right above him, and then a couple that are right below him. So I think that's kind of ending up as a dead range. Even Eric Jones, right in there, is not really for me this week. I like the mid to high sevens, and I like the 6K range pretty decently. So I'm not going to be on Bubba this week. A guy that I do like that for GPPs that I think is going to be a little lower on is Christopher Bell at 77. Um, he obviously got that win a couple weeks ago. Kind of got that off his back for this whole
Sorry
year.
about the
I
dog
talked
here.
about that. I talked about that in my article that now he's just racing freely. The team
Mm-hmm.
is making decisions freely without
Yeah.
having to even worry about it. It's obviously they're going to have to take um,
No, I'm with you
they're
there.
going to take some chances that they otherwise shouldn't. So it's always going to end up making him GPP play that as long as he's not starting in the very back. But if he's starting here around 16th, he has the upside in this equipment we know to finish like a top 5. And I think that is his upside. I don't think that's where he finishes most times that they run this race. I think he's around the 10th place finish, which is fine for 7,700.
I
But
can't hear you.
I think Christopher Bell is going to be a GPP play for me. Maybe I even use him in my single entry to get a little bit different, but I'll let you talk on the two that you have highlighted as value plays here because I do like both of those as well. And one of them is Briscoe. I'll lead you into that one. If you play Briscoe, I kind of like something I talked about last week. I like kind of teaming these matching these teams up. Like
Mm-hmm.
Stuart Haas was not good as a team last week. Maybe they found something this week and you play like a Harvick, Almirola, and Briscoe together. I did that last week. It did not work out. And we've tried that sometimes with these other teams as well. Like Hendrick, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You could play Larson and Elliott or even Bowman. And you can do it with the Toyotas as well. Maybe you play Bell, Hamlin. I mean, I just
I
really
like it.
like doing that sometimes because we see things like last week. They're either going to all hit or they might all miss. So I'll let you talk about Briscoe and Chastain. I like both of those pretty decent.
And going back to stacking teammates, I mean, that's something we generally only talk about like for super speedways and stuff like that. But with this new package, we have seen, like I even remember practices before last year, even when they were in there. Um, like they were doing some drafting and pushing and stuff like that. So there's definitely help that goes on within the team. So I'm with you there. One that stands out to me, just going back to the top here, someone in chat had mentioned no love for Keselowski. I replied in the chat that I think he's going to be definitely like 5 to 8% owned. He's going to be low owned like he was last week. I think we've seen that surprising. When he was up front there and leading some laps, or at least around the front, he was super low owned. And every week, and I talked about this in chat last week as well, one or two guys always pop up that are super low owned that it seems like we just never think about or never get, and they run up front. So this year is crazy. I absolutely love it. First of all, the parity within the sport is amazing. The all these other winners so far, outside of say like the big three that we used to have, are really going to make it very stressful for some of these other teams, in terms of the playoff picture, because there's only 13 spots left, you know, to win, and we haven't seen any of the big names get in there yet. So definitely like that. I want to touch on that here quickly. Sorry about the dog episode there. Kenny seems to enjoy it. I think he was saying Kyle Busch is going to win. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what he was trying to say there. No, had a neighbor pop by and didn't realize I was doing a live show. You can barely see these headphones, so I was sorry about that, everyone. Little real life going on there, but I like Cole Custer and Chris Buescher are going to be my two favorite value plays, 64 or 65 and 6400. Buescher a little bit more on FanDuel at 5K. It's $2,300 cheaper than Custer. They're starting 20th and 18th. They both have decent track history here. Custer 16th and 19th. Buescher top 10 here last year. I know he's in a different car here, but looking at his track record, 9th, 14th, 18th, 18th, 15th, 15th, 23rd, 26th is his worst. Like the floor here with Buescher at this price, I know we're not getting a lot of place differential upside with these guys, but they're mid 6K. If we go look at I'm just going to turn the screen share. Oh, we do have it on here. So I'm just going to go look at the fantasy matrix here real quick at those two, because I was kind of hesitant at first seeing them start 20th and 18th, but we're kind of looking for like that 5X range, right? So that's about 30 points, 31 points. So for them, that's a 15th, 16th place finish. I definitely think they're both can do that if we go look at the intermediate tracks here, and we will bring them up. Why can't I see them? Busher. Little delay here. Working off my phone internet here today, and when I actually hit like the search button or open a new tab, it's extremely slow. But I'm pretty happy that seeing all this green in terms of the streaming quality. So because I was a little nervous I was going to drive to the city here this weekend again. Okay, so Busher, 15 races, 6 top 20s in the intermediates, 1 top 10. So I mean, it's nothing outstanding in terms of upside. It's just more of a very safe floor play. You're kind of looking at a 15th to 20th place finish, and I will take that from him. Kind of the same with Custer. If you're building those cash lamps, like I talked about earlier, starting them off with like a Blaney, you're going down and getting Matty D, Almirola, or even just two of those three. Going with a Busher or Custer, getting some consistency at a mid 6K price tag is kind of that feels like that's going to be chalky. Two guys above them. You talked about Briscoe and Chastain. They're starting 21st and 24th in. Let's just jump back here to the matrix real quick. 21st and 24th. They're $1,000 more expensive, so I think they're going to be 5% less than GPP. I think they're going to be the GPP plays for me versus Busher and Custer, probably in the cash range, or at least in terms of exposure, because I only play GPP. So I would say Busher and Custer are going to be maybe a little bit more exposure, but the pivots for me will be Briscoe and Chastain, kind of starting in that same range. But I just feel with the cars that they're in, they have a little bit more upside. Is that any close to what you're thinking with those guys? Just in terms of, I know they're younger. Maybe I know Chastain's like a rookie. He's got a lot of experience here in lesser equipment, obviously, but I think they're those two, the 42 and the 14, the equipment definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was not really. I was updating the soccer sheet while you were talking there
Nice.
because I had an error
Starters.
in it. So, who are we talking about?
Yeah, so Busher and Custer, I said I'm going to be like the most exposure in terms of my
Right.
DK, but I think pivoting to Briscoe and Chastain, if they're going to be less owned, like I think, is a great way to go. Just simply because one, if they're lower owned; two, because I think they have a little bit more upside, although they're $1,000 more than that group that I talked about first, and they're in better equipment. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, Custer and Busher are. It was interesting what we saw from Busher last week. How he kind of dominated the race there for a little while. So that was something to see. And he's 6,400 starting 18th. I think he's fine. Like you said, I think they definitely have good floors. Do they have the upside? I guess we'll kind of find that out. But I do like the pivot up in price to Briscoe or Chastain if you can get there. Maybe you play one of the ones in the sevens and then one of the ones in the six. Do you think it'll be popular to play Custer and Busher
I
together?
do. I think that's going to be a definite popular choice on both sites, especially FanDuel, but DraftKings as well. Just the price tag, um, getting those, I'm going to say, quality of drivers in this mid 6K range, kind of with their track history of like neither of them has finished outside the top 20 in like 3 or 4 years here. I know Custer's only got 2 races, but 16th and 19th. I do think there's going to be um, being that they're $1,000 less than Briscoe and Chastain, I think that's where the chalk's going to go. And then that takes us back to Bubba in the 23. He's going to start in 23rd, so he's starting in that exact same price range as all four of those guys, but he's going to be like 2 or 3% owned, I'm guessing. So back to the pivot, I think you could definitely pivot to Bubba. If you're doing 20 max, going with one or two Bubba in there to pivot your lineup so you're not ending up with 60-70% of Briscoe, Chastain, Custer, and Busher. I think is a good strategy, is pivoting, finding one or two of these guys that's going to be 2-3% owned and pivoting to them. Same thing with Kozlowski in the top range. So that's kind of why we break it down by range. We really like to look and break down who's going to be the chalk, and then that could really just makes it easy of who to pivot to in GPP. Who haven't we talked about yet? It's probably going to be a good GPP pivot because probably no one else is really talking about them either. Um, I was asked about LaJoy here. What you think about LaJoy finally getting positive place differential starting 33rd, and he's finished 27th, 16th, 28th, 27th, and 16th here at Vegas. Those were in Fords, but what do you think about him starting 33rd?
I'm actually not going to be on him this week, even though he is starting farther back. Is that they actually price people in the 2000s on FanDuel? I
Oh,
didn't
it's
know.
crazy, right?
Shows how much I play over there, but I guess you can play him there.
He's a
2,500.
that's an auto play. Like I'll take a 25th to 30th place finish for like honestly on DraftKings we're looking for 30 points from him. So to get that 30 points, you're looking at about a 23rd.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of risk there, even though he's starting there. So it would be GPP only for me. I just don't feel like the floor is as safe as say Custer or Busher, but the upside is greater for sure, just because he's starting much further back. He's a guy that could definitely finish 15th to 20th, which is a range of 36 to 46 points, which definitely would put him in the optimal lineup, I think. So GPP, there is most definitely upside for him. So I'm on that for GPP. But again, he would be a low exposure pivot off of Bush and Custer, who have a little more safety.
Yeah. So a guy that I really like is I think he's going to be lower on this week. He was kind of mid on last week, but I think he is going to be lower. Starting 22nd, Suarez. I really like what we're seeing out of this car.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can push. I mean, his upside, I think, in this car is actually around 10th to 12th, which is, we
46
could never
points.
say that last year. So
Never.
if he gets a 12th place finish, that's 41 points compared to LaJoy. He's got to get 17th to beat him in that scenario. So I really like Suarez today, and that's probably the guy I like the most when you get down here in this super value range. Because once you cross 6K, I did write up Alfredo down here.
Yeah.
I think he's fine again. I mean, he's just a guy that you can throw in there. I think that he's got solid equipment. It was the car that John Hunter was in last year. Starting 27th is fine again. I mean, I think he can get 20th. He's not really showing it. That'd be 22 points. I don't even know. Is that, or no, that'd be 30 points. Sorry, I was looking at Priest.
Mm-hmm.
30 points for him getting a 20th place finish is doable and would be fine for 5,600.
Yeah.
And then I think Priest is starting too far forward for me. So if I cross the 6K range, I'm definitely going to Alfredo. But him and Suarez are my favorite once you cross Busher.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on Alfredo. Just looking at the matrix alone, I agree with you that he's got 20th place upside. He could sneak a little bit better than that, I think, in a perfect scenario. But in a non-perfect scenario where he just has a good day and there isn't like tons of wrecks or craziness out there or anything like that, I could see a 22nd place finish. And at 5,600, we're looking for like 26, 27 points. So a 21st kind of gets us there with him. So and that allows us, if you pair him with a Busher, Custer, even go up to Briscoe, Chastain, any of these guys in the mid 6K to mid 7K range, it allows you to go and grab a couple of these top guys that we talked about. Like getting Blaney in there isn't very hard, and pairing Blaney with Harvick, like you had talked about, grabbing maybe an early dominator and a late dominator, plus you get that place differential. Going that road isn't that hard this week because we've got these guys in the 5K, 6K, even the 7K range. And this is another reason why I think the 7K range is going to be low owned. Briscoe and Chastain is just we do have Alfredo, who you had mentioned, Suarez down there. I think other people are noticing what he's doing. Corey LaJoie started in 33rd. I think is going to take on some ownership as well. Busher, Custer, and then you go to the top and look at you get Hamlin and Harvick, who both I'm just going to go back to the main sheet here and show you on the. Actually, we'll just go right to the intermediate track history tab here. Looking at the wins here on since the start of last year on intermediate tracks, they lead everyone with 3 wins apiece. They are first and second in top fives with 9 and 7. Harvick's got 13 top tens in last 15 races on intermediate tracks, and 600. And between them, they've got over 1,100, almost 1,100 laps led, and they're under 10K. So that just seems a little crazy in terms of pricing for me today on an intermediate track. So uh, there's a lot of ways you can go about building today, whether you play it safe or whether you just want to completely pivot off some of these chalk builds and just kind of maybe go with this mid range. There's just so many ways to build, and I'm really liking this 20 max today.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on everything. In terms of betting, I know we said we would touch on that here a little bit. So going and looking at, I'm just going to bring up.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the odds here.
Always have to search it
Yeah.
because it's never a main sport on CoolBet. The Canadian site I use. Yeah, so Harvick's the leader at 6-1, Truex 6.5. So that to me, that just brings value to some of these other guys. I like betting Chase Elliott 8.5-1. I'm probably gonna pick 2 guys, and I've got it narrowed down to Elliott, Logano, and Hamlin, 8.5, 8.5, and 9-1. I probably bet 2 of those so that no matter which, if one of those guys wins. Deeper back in the field, Kyle Busch 13-1 is kind of tempting. Blaney 12-1 is kind of tempting for me on over here. I don't know what odds you're getting. What are you looking at?
I was just scrolling to see if I could get some odds that I liked on this one play. Suarez top 10. I don't think it's good enough odds for me though. I thought that would be kind of a long shot. I was hoping we could get at least like 10-1, but it's 6.5-1 for me for top 10 on him. So I might pull the trigger, but I think I'm staying off. As far as to win, I love Chase at 9-1. Um, and then I think you could take a shot. What I might do instead of playing Alex Bowman, maybe I bet him at 20-1.
I was just looking
I
at
think
that.
that could be a nice longer shot. If you think that kind of the surprise, he wouldn't be super surprised, but I think he would be more surprised than one of these top teams that we usually see win. So 20-1 on him. And then if you think Christopher Bell, he'd be about the longest I would go to actually win at 35. Not sure what I'm pulling the trigger on other than Chase. Maybe I'll take another guy in this 10-1 or less, but I think I might just lock in Chase and then take a couple deeper shots on a Bowman and possibly Bell, but probably just Bowman.
I just bet Hamlin, Elliott, and you got me on Bowman I got him at 19-1, but I definitely like that long shot at 19-1. I mean, we're not getting long shots like golf where we get 100-1, in which gives us some pretty good payouts. But in NASCAR, getting a 20-1. And that's another thing with this year for betting. This is why I've got more into the outright betting in the NASCAR market this year, just simply because of the parity and because, we've got a list of about 15 to 20 drivers now that could potentially win every week. And we wouldn't be like, holy shit, so-and-so won this week. Like Christopher Bell won. It didn't seem completely like a total surprise because he looked solid last year in that lower team, and then jumped into this car this year and just it looks great. Like with those he's outperforming Kyle Busch, which is just sad. But
why do they keep pricing Kyle at the top of this field?
I think it's the place differential. I think that's the only reason. But then again, why wouldn't Blaney be number one? Right? It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They like Kyle Busch a lot more than I do. And my relationship with Kyle is a love-hate relationship.
Are you making the pricing for DraftKings, Chris? I think that's
it's so I can get low ownership. I just want low ownership.
That's the deal here. Chris is making the pricing at DraftKings. So
yeah, I missed out too much on his 8-win season, his championship season, and yeah, and now I'm clued in and I've coded myself in there and I'm changing the pricing live. It's great. Just looking for that low ownership. Yeah, so that's kind of our bets. One other thing I wanted to peek at here real quick was some prize picks plays. I played Xfinity yesterday, had a really good day there. I went Brandon Jones and Noah Gragson over, which was, I believe I was looking for Gragson was a 6th or better, and Jones was like a 7th or better, 8th or better, I think, where he was priced at. So that was a nice pick there. And my brother even went a little bit further and threw the winner Allmendinger in there and had a nice return on that. Today, I'd probably be looking. I like Logano on the over here, and then some guys that are a little bit lower down. Bowman's at 31.5, and if you're looking at that, I have that over on the sheet showing you how many fantasy points it takes for those finishing positions. So 10th place finish is 31, and that's just 1 point different all the way up. So you're just betting over under finish position there. So those are a couple that I like there. Any other drivers that we didn't talk about? Anything else before we go? I'm going to stop you. I'm not going to let you say anything. I want to send a big happy anniversary to my wife. 10 years today. We got married in Las Vegas, so this is a pretty big race day for us. The wedding was actually the day after the race in Vegas that year. We got married on a Monday. We kind of organized the wedding around the race, so I mean, shout out to her. She's just the greatest. She allows me to do these shows every Sunday. She allows me to do this fantasy shit like 14 hours a day on the computer and watch TV, all sports. I've got 4 screens right now, and normally it is all sports and all work every day. So shout out to her. I love you, babe. Thanks for allowing us to do this. But
yeah, congratulations to both of you.
It's going to bring us some good luck, and we got GPP win today.
It is. That's bringing the complete mojo here.
Yeah. We celebrated yesterday by buying a brand new stove. So a GPP win today would be like, I don't know, a new fridge, microwave would just complete the set, I guess, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Any final thoughts? I don't see any more questions in here. So any final thoughts on the day?
I think that'll cover it. Just remember, just like last week, make sure you build with dominators.
Yes.
We saw it the first couple races, it didn't matter, but last week it mattered. It's going to matter today. So make sure in GPPs you're getting the dominators. In cash, you can go more. If you want to do that build you talked about, Blaney, DiBenedetto, Almirola, just for their floors, yes, but that's fine in cash. But GPP, you're going to need the place or the dominator upside that they give you.
I just seen your EPL scale there. You sure don't have any Manchester United players in your lineup today. What? I'm just looking at that.
I can't even decide I can't even decide the one to put in. And if you look at the sheet, I have nobody highlighted. So I'm still like trying to decide who to put in these last 15 minutes. I can't. I had the problem this morning. I was 100 away on the full slate of the exact team that I wanted. And then I get to this showdown and I'm 300 away from the team that I want. So I just can't decide who to put in. So
Well, good luck with that, and I won't have time to put that in. Let's go build some NASCAR lineups, and if anyone's got questions leading up to lock, we got like something. I believe it's not till 4:30 or something like that. Eastern time is the lock, or 4 o'clock. So,
Three three
three
forty five, I think.
3:45. Yeah, so we got like 4 hours to
Or,
build here. So head over to the chat. That's Roto Pros. We've got a Slack chat over there. Get your free trial. Use RP50 to get your 50% off. Join us in chat. We're in there right up till lock. Go over to dfsr.com. Got a week free trial over there as well. I'll be in there until lock, talking NASCAR, talking hockey, talking PGA sweats here on Sunday. And then myself over patreon.com/Jagerbombs. I have a Slack chat over there as well for my patrons. Jump in there. I'll be in there up until lock, talking some NASCAR and pretty much anything sports related as well. Again, happy anniversary, babe. Have a great day. Let's go get some green screens. Let's rock and roll, everyone.
good luck.